A single phone call was the only reason Ellis Cormack still had a business card in his wallet by the end of the week, right after he'd sold his last car just to cover the hospital bills piling up on the kitchen counter. Ellis was 40 years old, laid off twice in 3 years, and every landlord who'd ever called him back treated him like exactly what his credit report suggested: a man running out of options. His daughter Wren was 6. She carried a soft gray lamb named Sable everywhere, one ear worn thin from being squeezed through every hard night that year. The voice on the other end of the phone, a company rep named Trent Boyle, laughed before Ellis even finished his sentence. "You're calling about a patent from 15 years ago? Nobody's paying out on that." Ellis said nothing. He set the phone down instead of hanging up on him. Whatever Trent didn't want him to remember was about to cost the company more than they'd ever imagined, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what that phone call uncovered. The apartment was smaller since the car went. Groceries carried home on foot now instead of driven. Trent called back that evening, this time with a lawyer on the line, tapping his pen against the receiver the way people do when they think volume wins arguments. "We checked our records. There's no active licensing agreement in your name." Ellis didn't raise his voice. He pulled an old folder from the closet shelf instead, ran his thumb along a bent corner, said nothing back. Not confusion, not desperation, just certainty. Wren sat on the couch nearby, Sable pressed to her chest, watching her father the way she watched him check the mailbox every day since the hospital bills started arriving. Trent called it a misunderstanding, said the company owed him nothing, and hung up first. Ellis folded the papers carefully, told Wren everything was fine, and carried her to bed past the empty space where the car used to sit in the driveway. His wife had been in and out of the hospital for months, and treatment costs didn't slow down just because the paychecks had. Some weeks, Ellis sold something else: tools, a watch, finally the car, just to keep both accounts above zero. Doreen, a former colleague from the engineering firm where Ellis used to work before the layoffs, showed up at his door that weekend with the same folder tucked under her arm that he still had, hers marked with a date from 2009. "You never filed the renewal, did you?" she said. Not a question. Ellis didn't answer, just knelt to retie Wren's shoelace where she sat on the porch step, tucked Sable back under her arm, and said they'd talk once Wren was inside. Doreen watched him go and said, mostly to the empty driveway, "Some men don't forget what they built. They just stop expecting anyone to remember it with them." By Monday morning, Ellis had gone through every page in the folder, not skimming, studying, the way he used to review a design before it ever left his desk. It wasn't just an old idea. It was a fully documented patent for a component the company had quietly rebranded and sold under a different product name for over a decade, generating royalties nobody had ever paid him. Trent wanted the conversation closed. No callback, no meeting. Ellis wanted the original filing verified against the company's current paperwork, line by line. "There's nothing to verify," Trent snapped over the phone. "There's exactly one thing to verify," Ellis said, and walked, because there was no car left. The folder straight to the company's front desk himself. Patents had a language to him, the way a promise has a weight to some people. He found it in 20 minutes at the lobby table, a signature on the internal transfer form that didn't match his own handwriting on the original 2009 filing beside it. Not a clerical mix-up, a forgery, not once. Twice, both timed just before royalty checks would have been due. He photographed both documents before anyone could take them back, and by then it didn't matter, because the folder had already told its story. Miriam Castellan, the company's CEO, came down to the lobby herself once security called it up as urgent. Trent tried to get ahead of it, calling the folder outdated paperwork from a former contractor, insisting there was no obligation on record. Ellis laid the photographs across the reception counter instead, his real signature beside the forged one, 15 years apart, the same telling slant repeating in the same letter. "Your company didn't forget about my patent," he said quietly. "Somebody made sure the paperwork never made it to your desk." Doreen stepped forward. "I filed the original renewal request myself in 2009, she said to Miriam. "I never understood why it disappeared from the system. Now I do." Trent tried one more line about statutes of limitations and outdated claims. Nobody in the lobby was listening to him anymore. Miriam didn't raise her voice. She turned the photographs over twice, set them down carefully, like they were something she wasn't ready to let go of yet. "We built an entire product line on this design," she said. "You just told me the man who invented it never saw a dollar of it." Trent was walked to HR before he made it back to his own office, and nobody offered him a chance to explain further. Miriam turned to Ellis. "I want to correct this properly. Full back pay on royalties, and a consulting role with our engineering team, starting whenever you're ready." Ellis looked toward the lobby doors, where Ren stood waiting with Doreen, sable dangling from one hand, and said that depended on whether he could still pick her up from school every afternoon at 3. Miriam walked over and lowered herself down to Ren's height, knees against the polished lobby floor, in a blazer that cost more than every item Ellis had sold that year combined. "Your dad found something today that our whole company missed for 15 years, she said. Ren studied her the way 6-year-olds study things they've already decided are true, sable still tucked under one arm. "My daddy doesn't give up on things," she said. "He just waits for someone to finally listen." Miriam didn't answer right away. She just nodded once, stood up, and let the words settle in the lobby the way they deserved to. The next morning, Ellis knelt on the front step to retie Ren's shoelace, sable already tucked under her arm, the sky barely gray over the rooftops across the street. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked. "Same time," he said, and took her hand as they started down the sidewalk toward school, her sneakers scuffing the pavement 2 steps behind his.